Very special guest today, world champion athlete, specifically at women's soccer, but now coaching the boys team at Sun Lake High School. She just won the national championship there. Basically walked onto the coaching field and just took control over there, as she did at Eckerd and many other schools before that. Danielle Fotopoulos here on the program, again, former Gator, 1998 national championship, was on the 99 World Cup team as well, and many other teams besides that. We're not going to run down the whole list of events, but Danielle, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start off. We could go through being on the Gators, and I do want to touch on that in the World Cup and all that other jazz with that kid. But let's start out what's first, first going on in the day and in the newspaper, as far as if people still read the newspaper. The Sun Lake High School boys soccer team did win that national championships. Obviously, you stepped in this year, really kicked ass. They kicked ass as well, winning that national champion boys the Florida
State
championship.
championship, 6A
Yeah.
state championship. Yeah.
Talk
Yeah,
about
it was
that
a
if you could.
sure, it was a phenomenal experience. Fortunately, I was able to, be a part of it. The program here at Sun Lake Boys Soccer has always been fantastic.
Mhm.
The coach before me, Coach Sam, he is now at Trinity College and is a college coach. He was the first coach ever, and they've always had a strong program. So coming in and getting to be a part of that was fantastic. My son, Will Fotopoulos, he got to play under Sam, and they had
Okay.
many district titles and regional title. Well, no regional titles because they never, when he was here, made it to the state Final Four. But I know early on, Coach Sam had a lot of success. And so traditionally, it's just been a fantastic program.
So talk about that because obviously you played at the highest levels in the U.S., not to mention around the world, whether it was college, whether it was professional, and obviously with the national team. And obviously you coached at Eckerd. How different is it from coaching boys soccer to coaching women's soccer? It's like a totally different animal, I'm assuming.
I would say that it is different, but I really try to coach a soccer player. The
Okay.
game per se, it is different also in the boys and girls
Right.
game. The boys is a little bit faster. I would say it's also different coaching high school than club or nationally, all the different types of styles definitely is a change. So the way that boys soccer is usually played, and especially in America, high
Mhm.
school boys soccer is a very fast paced, high press, counter attacking style, which I really love coaching and I think is very successful. And that's a lot of what we did. Obviously, we had fantastic players. I had 13 seniors, we had
Wow.
13 seniors. Yeah. So the leadership was phenomenal. I really, we had a lot. I had four captains and then actually a fifth on the field that could speak to the referees. So having a lot of leadership goes a long way.
I want to ask you this because obviously, as you said, soccer, but it's a little bit of a different game. We've interviewed many people that have coached women's soccer. We talk about this. I want to get your opinion. I know this is a little bit of switching gears here, but you've coached obviously at Eckerd, done a lot of recruiting there. With that said, there's playing high school, and there's also the girls playing ECNL, ODP. The list goes
Yeah.
on and on. Again, if you were recruiting a player for Eckerd, just going back to that, would you prefer that they just played the ECNL, the ODP, that higher level soccer than paying basically for fun? I know there is some high schools that do have great girls soccer, as there is for boys in general. But would you rather them play at that highest level or play both or just play one or the other? What are you thinking?
I think they should play both.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Developmentally, it also depends if they take a break during the high school time. Some clubs, some
Yeah.
programs do, some don't. And when that occurs, I think there has to be a really known balance, between the coaches as well as, helping that high school player understand how to take care of their bodies during that time. Because high school's regimented. It's hard. You're not always playing on the best facilities either. You have to really
Yeah.
be aware of like the fields. A lot of them are not well cared for. They are well cared for, but because there's so much activity on them, it's
Yeah.
sometimes a dangerous environment. So you have to be aware of that. But I do think, playing at the ECNL level, ECNLR level, even that NPL level, like you can have some really high level players for the amount on the girls' side, specifically for the amount of opportunity there is to play college soccer.
But the
The
question,
boys' side
oh,
is a
go ahead,
little
sorry.
different because a lot of the boy coaches in Division 1, in Division 2, all the way to JUCO, they go international a lot. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things I try to tell the boys, like, hey, you need to look at their rosters and see if they have Americans on the team and see, where they're recruiting from. See, find that niche of, do they play your style of soccer? There's just so much boys and girls, players alone that goes into that recruiting process and finding the right coach, the right style, the right timing. Do you have a sophomore starter in that position and you're going to sit the bench for 3 years? So there's just,
Yeah.
you know, through that process, a lot goes into it.
They just did a big article on USA Today about a lot of females that are playing soccer. They're tearing their ACLs. You had a tears many times, 3 or 4 times, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong on the number. So you know the deal is with that. So, just going kind of playing back to the last question, are you worried that, again, whether it's playing both high school and at that club level, that, girl could get burned out? And obviously the injury issue is there. You saw it firsthand, but we're seeing, again, a lot of females that are playing, especially at those high school club levels, are tearing their ACLs. And, it's really hard to come back from that, as you know, and really be the same player. Obviously, there are females that have came back and have become the same player or better players, but it's very hard, as and many other people know.
Yeah, so I would definitely, I mean, obviously that risk is there,
Yeah.
tearing of the ACL. I did tear mine 3 times.
Okay.
All of those times I was playing professionally.
Right.
So two were with the national team, and one was with my professional team, the Courage.
Okay.
So I can say that, that risk is there for me. I mean, it wasn't kind of a choice. Am I going to play again? Absolutely.
Right.
I think it's that mindset.
Yeah.
And then, as a coach at Eckerd, I did have the girls do 3 times a week an ACL
Okay.
prevention that they just did. It was kind of a dynamic. It took a while. I also had my club players do it as well when I was a club coach. I don't make the high school boys team do it, but when I coached girls or women, I would make them do a ACL prevention, kind of like a warm up. But it was definitely, I think it was helpful. I honestly didn't really have, I I beat the odds as a coach for those ACL tears, but it's a risk. It's a risk that you play as a sport, as well as with the concussions and, just
Yeah.
sport in general. When you play any sport, especially a contact sport, there's risk in that. And so, with the ACLs, can you do much about it? I mean, not really. You need to just, if you can, do those ACL preventions and do your best. But I think, that's part of the sport.
Why do you feel like it's more prevalent to girls having these injuries more so than men, as far as in soccer?
Um, you know, I don't really know. I would just have to go
Okay.
off of what some doctors have said about maybe the hips and the things in our knees being a little smaller. But I mean, I can't really answer that
Is
question.
is it a training issue though? Like you said, you were having the girls do certain exercises to make sure they're loosen up, or is it some of these other coaches? Again, we're not trying to badmouth anybody, but maybe they're not doing those specific, excuse me, exercises to make sure that their girls are loose consistently, and that's why we're seeing more so those tears.
No, I wouldn't say that.
No,
I don't think it
okay.
has to, no, I don't think it has to do with like a warm up or anything to that. I definitely don't. I do think, in any injuries, tweaking an ankle, pulling a hamstring, all of those kind of things, does that come from maybe a fitness level? Yes. Have we seen that in ACLs? No. Like I think that's the thing. It's not, I when I tore my ACLs, I was fit. So it's not like whether you're fit or not. Are you fatigued? I mean, in soccer you get fatigued, but I mean, I tore mine all different ways. Two were non-contact, one was contact. So I think again, that part of it is just part of the game. And boys and men, they tear their ACLs too. And they have different injuries than we do. I know that the men get the injury on the hip flexor a lot, where females don't get that as much. They get it, but it's more, prevalent to the guys getting that than the females. So there's just, I think, different things with soccer tend to have, from the boys and the girls, there's just different injuries that occur.
Again, for people listening, this is Danielle Fotopoulos here on the program. I do want to get into playing for Becky Burleigh. We've interviewed her quite a few times here on the program in the past, before she retired, and then when she got the job with the Pride. That was the last time we spoke to her. So it's been a little while since we've had her on the program. But let's go into this. Obviously, she came to Florida and recruited a lot of great players that, specifically yourself and Heather Mitz was there, Abby Wambach. The list goes on and on. Can you talk about coming in as a transfer to Becky's program, playing with so many great players? And then obviously the program had just started a couple years before, and then she really built the team up and they won obviously a national championship. You were there in 1998.
Sure. First of all, Becky Burleigh is my coach, my mentor, my friend now, and somebody who at the time, she was on fire. She was just, she was
Right.
everywhere. She was an ODP. She was recruiting. She loved being a Gator. She
Mhm.
had that time. I mean, at that time, there wasn't a lot of women's soccer in the state. Everybody was starting to get the programs going. So she was a young coach. She also, I transferred honestly because I got married. So I transferred and I wanted to go to a school in Florida that had a great program.
Mhm.
And at the time, they were one of the top programs and they were closest to Tampa. My husband was
Mhm.
coaching and living in Tampa. And so it just worked out for my soccer, for for her being a great mentor and coach for me, as well as her staff, as well as the school in general. I mean, just obviously the University of Florida is a top-notch university and athletic program. Jeremy Foley was there at the time, top athletic director, just expected us to win a national championship. And I think that's what I wanted. I also, as well as Becky, there was Vic there too, Vic Campbell,
Mhm.
and
Right.
they helped me get on the national team. They knew that was a goal of mine. I'm transferring not only because I got married, but now I like want to make the national team. This is the goal. This is what, this is what I want to do. And they helped me with that too, not only in fostering my uh leadership. Becky really helped me be a better leader, but then Vic was always there to train me. He trained me a lot.
Right. And I kind of want to go again deep into that 1998 run, if we could, before we kind of switch gears to the World Cup. And I am watching the clock. I do want to be gracious with your time with that. And I know you've been really great with us today. But let's talk about 98. How did the year unfold? Did you have that feeling going into spring season, going into camp, even after that, that this could be a real big year for University of Florida soccer?
Absolutely. We thought we could go all the way. We
Okay.
we especially we had UNC Chapel Hill come and play us at home, and it was a very close game. That really we didn't win it that day, but it really inspired us to be like, hey, we can do this. Like from there, it was just kind of this snowball effect with confidence and winning the SECs, and that's a big deal for the SEC. You win the SECs, that's definitely an expectation. And then competing in the national championship is the ultimate expectation. So I think just having that game under our belt and us doing so well and being so close really inspired us to do well in the Final Four.
Can we talk a little bit about what you feel like as a UF graduate is missing right now with University of Florida women's soccer with their program? Obviously, they have great facilities, really built a beautiful weight room in general. They have beautiful facilities right outside the pitch over there. But it seems like since Becky left in 21, the program has been, seems like it's starting to get on the rise now, but it's been kind of in a kind of middle of the road, middle of the pack right now. What do you feel like happened since Becky left? Do you feel like it's just tough to replace an absolute legend like that as far as a women's soccer coach at Florida, or what do you think is going on there?
I do think that obviously not having Becky there, but towards later in her stint as the coach, and then they had another coach for only a year, and
Right.
then Coach Sam Bohan came in who did a fantastic job. I thought she was up on the rise. I mean, if you actually looked a lot at our national championship team,
Mhm.
some of those same things were starting to happen with her. She
Right.
finally had her full classes coming in.
Yeah.
She did an excellent job of, rebuilding character and
Mhm.
as well as the culture there. And is it a different culture? I would say it's a new culture that, you know, with a new generation that was coming around. So now they have Coach Nick there, who is also a fantastic coach, who's from Tampa
Mhm.
originally, and I'm excited for the program. I think each coach was there during a time that they needed to be there to make the transition from Becky per se, if that makes sense, because Nick's the third coach,
Yeah.
so that's a lot of coaches in actually a short amount of time as compared to Becky, Coach Burleigh. So I'm always a supporter. Our alumni is very strong. We
Mhm.
are, uh, you know, we are happy to be there for the team and for the coaches and obviously Gator Nation. But I can say, um, I'm hoping that this is the next step towards winning the SECs. And now the SEC compared to when I was there, I mean, we have Texas A&M, we got
Yeah.
Texas, right? They got big schools in there that that's a big difference too.
I want to get into the last segment, just talking about the World Cup. And I do agree with you, just to kind of backtrack on the Samantha Bohan era there. The recruiting class coming in this year was really phenomenal. She was really building. I think the class was rated in the top 10. I could be wrong on that,
Yeah,
but it was
top
pretty.
five, top
All
five.
right. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah,
I was like, I could be wrong, but I know it's pretty high up. But
yes.
regardless of that, she was on the right path. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what's in people's heads there, but we'll keep the ball rolling with the interview here. So let's go with the last segment, talking about the World Cup in '99. Obviously, it really put the World Cup on the map here at the U.S. level and also with the national team level with the woman. Talk about being a part of that in general.
Absolutely. Amazing experience, obviously, getting to be with a group of women that were so determined, so focused, so fun. I think the big part why it was a special team is because we got along and we really enjoyed being together. There was definitely a core that had been together for over 10 years. I was only there maybe 4 or 5 years, which is still a long time to get to be a part of that team. I think being a 99ers, the 99ers is, what we've actually patent so that we can, a lot of things are happening. There's a Netflix movie coming out. I don't know if you know that, but the Netflix movie's coming out and it's about the team. And there's been documentaries and, a lot of other podcasts with, that have come from that. And as well as just unaware that women can play soccer and that it can be fun. A league came out of it, and a professional league that wasn't there before. Obviously, the experience there for me in my life, I have had a lot of moments that would be definitely in the top 10. Obviously, I have 4 children and I'm married, so those things come before.
Yeah.
And but just that group, we still talk all the time. For 2 weeks, cities shut down their streets and had parades for us, and we got to stay together after that for a while. But then the impact, obviously, Title IX, women in sport, just all of our parents, grandparents, people that I still have somebody this week told me what they were doing during that game.
Wow.
So it was definitely impactful for the whole country and some of the world.
I want to end on this last note because obviously the WPS happened. Now we're in the NWSL era. Orlando's really growing here in Florida. Tampa Bay has I think it's the Sun down there in
Yep,
Tampa
the
Bay.
sun,
Yeah,
yes. Hmm.
and that league is obviously growing. The Sporting Jacks up there. They just played at University of Florida for the spring game. Regardless of that, can you talk about what you think is next for women's soccer? Because again, we talk about the 99ers, then we move to Sydney LaRue, Alex Morgan, Abby Wambach. Those women have obviously left the pitch now. We're on to a new era right now. Crystal Dunn. The list goes on and on as far as that goes. What is next for women's soccer as the years dwindle on and move on?
Well, and Claire Hutton, don't forget about her. She's
Yeah,
young and is
right.
just getting in there. And my nieces played against her, and my
Okay.
sister-in-law is always like, that girl's gonna be big, I'm telling you. And she was like 7 years old. She would talk to her about me all the time. And then she's like, look, she's on the national team. I'm like, I know, it's amazing. So for that group, it is different. I do think a lot, the next thing that has been happening is they're going overseas and playing professionally. Some
Yeah.
of them are going straight from high school and playing professionally. That's definitely different than when I played, right? Like we used college to get on the national team. Now there's other opportunities. There's these professional leagues in the United States, there's professional leagues overseas. So what's the next thing? Just keep playing and be the best.
Is
Obviously, I'm a US player. I want the US to win. I want us to dominate always. So what does that avenue look like? I think that it has changed a bit, but playing soccer, working hard and doing your best, that never changes.
is that
You can
bad for
always.
sorry to interject. Is that bad for the NWSL though, that all these females that are great in the US, they're going overseas? I kind of think of what's going to happen with if they all go overseas, then the NWSL takes a dive as far as keeping a lot of the players here? Or is that you feel like that's going to be good for the woman because they can say, hey, if you want us to play at Orlando Pride or over in North Carolina or in Utah, wherever it may be, you have to pay us as far as competition with these teams over in England or wherever it may be, Finland.
Yes, I think it's good for the professional soccer player, right? I mean, some of the men player are playing in Qatar.
Right.
Why are they playing there?
Again, cash.
Yeah, I mean, so yes,
Yeah.
it does make the brand, the product per se as a player, I think it's good and it will only make all of those leagues better. Having those players. You want the best players in your league. Well, just like the men's, you're going to have to pay, like, and that's okay. I mean, why would we not want that? And what league is that good for? It's good for all of the leagues. It's good for all of the leagues. They need to be professional. They need to pay the women. They need to do what's needed to make their teams and leagues the best.
Last question, Danielle.
Sure.
As far as getting more men to watch women's soccer, how do we do that? We did see some of that happen with Alex Morgan and obviously that, era of woman. I don't know if that's still holding on right now. I'd have to look at, what the ratings are in general, but how do we get more men to watch women's soccer? So obviously we can really fill up these stadiums, whether they're in Orlando or elsewhere around the country.
Well, obviously I'm not a man, so
I'm just saying because we're competing.
I know my
Yeah.
opinion. I think my opinion is, and obviously coming from a player's perspective, we can only do what we can do as players, and
Yeah.
that's to play the best game we can. You want to make it a good product. What's going to make it, more marketable for men? I mean, I think they want to see a good game. I do think that doing that as a soccer player and making it the best that we can, I think that is something that's attractive. I think, you have to be marketing savvy too, father
Yeah.
daughter stuff. If you're a dad and you don't have a girl, it's not something that you're really looking into where definitely dads who have girls who all they want to do is play soccer, they're going to be at the games. They're going to watch the games because they're going to want their daughter to be involved in that environment. So that's been a big thing. But I do think, people who have sons, they watch the men play because that's what they're going to have that opportunity in, where, young females, they do. But there are a lot of, my sons, do they watch the women's game? Of course. They
Right.
watch all soccer. So
Yeah. I just saw like that big peak rise back in 2011 after that World Cup here in the US. And then I believe it was what again in 2015 there was also a rise. And then it seems like those after those two big rises, it's kind of dipped. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's not factually correct. I don't know, but I remember just seeing that all over ESPN, all over these news sites in general, ABC, NBC, the list goes on and on. And now it seems like, as far as women's soccer, it's kind of like evened out, I guess would be probably maybe the best word. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. But I think obviously winning brings everything back up into shape in general. So,
definitely. And obviously the men's World Cup, like I'm so
yeah.
excited. I want our men to do good, like we need a great year and I feel like we're a very strong team this year. So I think those dips and things come into that,
Yeah.
those Olympic years, World Cup years, the winning, the, who's playing now, the obviously, I have been watching some of the professional league for the women, but I'm very interested in the men because they're in the World Cup and it's here. So, we're I know in our household we're looking at all the games. We're starting to make plans and excited for that.
All right. There's so many questions I could have just bounced off that, but we'll leave it here because I know you got to roll back.
Thank
But
you.
again, Danielle, thanks so much for your time. Danielle Fotopoulos here on the program. Again, former Gator, 1998 national championship, a member of the 1999 World Cup team, as well as far as many other things. And obviously, she is a champion now coaching high school boys soccer at Southland. So congratulations to that. But Danielle, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.